Hello everyone, welcome back. Welcome freaking back. As you guys can see by the title and the thumbnail of this video, we are talking about books that I think are perfect to read while you're tanning. It is obviously starting to get warm. The UV is starting to stay consistently high. It is just the perfect time to soak in some sun, and if you are anything like me, while you are soaking in that sun, you want a book. I have 3 recommendations for you for books that you can read while you're tanning. I have them all written down on this little note card with some bullet points as to why. So we are going to start out with the book that I do not have physically, which is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This book was so cute. Everything about that book was just phenomenal. I personally love Emily Henry. I love every single thing that she writes. All of her writing is just so eloquent and everything feels so real. You feel like you're actually there with these characters. It just makes it so much fun. And if you are anything like me, I love a friends to lovers. People We Meet on Vacation is in fact a friends to lovers. So if you are looking for something with some great banter between your male best friend and a female best friend, what better book to pick up than an Emily Henry? I may be biased just because I love Emily Henry so much, but I think that her books are truly just some of the easiest books to read. Everything about them are smooth, simple, easy, quick, to the point. But the 3 bullet points that I have written down for this book in particular is that the chemistry between our 2 main characters was just really easy, and honestly that just comes with the fact that they are childhood best friends. It helps. Being childhood best friends helps your chemistry every single time. I think that's why I love a childhood friends to lovers book, is because it really just makes the relationships feel that much deeper. The second bullet point that I have for this is the travel energy, just them going on vacations together every single year. I think that reading about travel, watching books, watching movies about travel, really anything to do with travel around the spring and the summer for me just screams comfy, cute book to read. You know what I mean? What is this hair? What is happening? Anyway, I think the travel energy makes it that much more summery, I guess you could say. It just makes it feel like it's the perfect season to read it, because usually during the spring and the summer is whenever I personally travel the most. I don't know about you guys, but I travel the most during the spring and the summer. So I thought that the travel energy in these Emily Henry books, especially People We Meet on Vacation, I feel like it's just perfect. And the last thing that I have written for this is that it was a low mental load, and I think what I mean by that is just that it was such an easy book to pick up and read. It didn't feel like you were dealing with all of these deep, dark childhood trauma secrets, you know what I mean? It just felt like these 2 friends really were just going on vacation, and you kind of got to live vicariously through them going to these places, because our main female character had these trips paid for. So they got to go to all of these extravagant places. So I thought that, I was honestly living vicariously through our characters. Just, it was a low mental load. It didn't feel like it was this deep secret. It was just a really, really easy book to read. Now, getting into the second book that I have that I read, well, now, let me restate this really quick. Did not read this book in particular, but one of the last times that I had sat out and tanned, I did pick up a book from this author because she's easy to read, and that is Normal People by Sally Rooney. This book was fantastic. I read this, I want to say in this month, but I don't think that's true. I think I read it last month. I don't know, months and days and weeks and years are all starting to blur together. I don't know what day it is anymore. But I think that normal people, sorry, I have a hair like touching me somewhere. But I think that Normal People is such an easy book to read, not because of the topic in the book, but because of how short the book is and the way that Sally Rooney writes. I think that Sally Rooney, something I did have to get used to, let me make a really quick caveat. She does not use quotation marks whenever her characters are speaking, so I had to get used to kind of just finding where the dialogue started between our two characters. But other than that, I thought that Sally Rooney's writing was really easy. It wasn't like overly descriptive, but it was descriptive enough to the point where we weren't spending a prolonged period of time just learning about kind of unnecessary things. It felt like we were seeing Marianne and Connell as teenagers, we were seeing Marianne and Connell as young adults, and kind of went from there. And I thought we got to see their dynamic change, which was really fun to read about. Everything about Sally Rooney's book that I had just previously read, which was Normal People, everything about this book was so phenomenal. I have a video of me reading this book, so I'm not going to talk too much, but I do think that this is such a perfect book to read while tanning. I think it's just so easy. I only have 2 bullet points for this book because it is so easy, and that is that it isn't, I kind of already said this, it's not that the book is easy because the topic is easy. It is a very heavy, emotional book, but it was done in a way that made it feel like you were kind of, how do I want to explain that? It was done in a way that didn't feel like we were spending just all of this time irritated with our characters. It felt like we were watching our characters grow. We were watching our characters become these different people. We were watching them change. And I thought that it was awesome. It felt like you were actually friends with Marianne and Connell because you got to see all of these things and you got to see the person change. And the second thing that I had written down for this book in particular was that it was a minimalist situation. And it's kind of like I've already had said, it is a short book. It is very quick and to the point. There's not a whole lot of like filler scenes, if that makes sense. It's just such an easy book to read. But going into the last book that I have recommended for you guys in today's video, which is, drumroll please, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read this book a few years ago and I devoured this book. I read it in the summer a few years ago and I thought that it really was just such a fun book to read in the summertime because I do concerts in the summer. I don't really do like winter concerts. It doesn't really hit right for me. I like a summer concert. So reading about this 1970s rock band during the summertime made me feel like I was at like a music festival. It made me feel like I was there. It made me fill me with serotonin in a weird way, I guess you could say. I have really only one point for this book. My point for this book is that the formatting for this book made it really easy to jump in and out of. It didn't feel like the chapters were, you need to finish it right here and right now, and you need to finish the chapter before you can put the book down, you know what I mean? The way that it was written was in 2 different forms, I guess you could say. It was written in a dialogue format where our main band members were being interviewed and we were getting the dialogue from said interview, but then we were also getting just the most fantastic literature that I have read in such a long time. I loved this book so much. This book follows Daisy and her bandmates. And the book is lightly based off of Fleetwood Mac. I'm almost 100% certain that that is a true statement. And once again, it being read during the summer made it hit so much better because it felt like I was getting ready to go to these concerts. It felt like I was living in the perfect age for rock and roll. You know what I mean? It just felt so good. It felt nostalgic. It made my serotonin rise. It was just overall such an enjoyable book. Those are the 3 books I have recommended for you. So let's go through them again. The first book that I have recommended for you guys is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This book was so good. It is a best friends to lovers romance. The yearning in this was also just phenomenal. The second book that I have recommended for you guys was Normal People by Sally Rooney. This was also kind of a childhood best friends to lovers situation, but kind of secret friends to lovers because of their socioeconomic status. Not gonna dive too much into that description because I've got a video on this book, so head over to that one. And the third book that I have recommended for you is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one was, like I said, a rock and roll interview style. Made you feel like you were there, made you feel like you were watching this all go down. It made you feel like everything was just happening right in front of your eyes. But those are the 3 books that I have recommended for you guys. I want to know if you guys pick up one of these books to go outside in town with, and if you do, let me know what you've rated them. If you have not read any of these books, I highly recommend that you do so. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you leave a comment downstairs. Make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.